Today we have with us in Creative Conversations Mr. Ashok Pandey, who has had an illustrious career in education. Welcome to Creative Conversations,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Dr. Himani. Thank you for getting me on your show.
Thank you, sir. So, in your times when you got into education, the focus used to be on careers such as engineering and civil services. So what sparked your interest in education? And we would be happy if you can share a little bit of your journey with us.
Yeah, very interesting. So immediately after 12th, I also got admission in engineering, but I refused. I wanted to go for higher studies. So I enrolled myself for BSc, Bachelor of Science. After Bachelor of Science, I got another job in Indian Railways. My father was a railway employee and he wanted me to go for railways. Again, I said, no, I want to do my post-graduation. So I did my MSc Physics. And after that, something very interesting happened. And that was perhaps the turning point in my life and career. My research professor, encouraged me that you have knack for teaching. I don't know how he knew it. He also took my consent that yes, I am fond of teaching. And he said that the challenge lies in dealing with young children. And he arranged a meeting with a principal, the then principal, a very distinguished, decorated army officer. And I joined his school. But even then, I must tell you very frankly, I thought, let me see how it goes. But let me see lasted only for 1 year. And after 1 year only, I decided that I have no other career open to me.
Wow. Passion.
And so I mean, maybe his influence, his inspiration, and the love for children that I developed, the curiosity they showed, the love they showed, you know, and I was growing every day. And that is how I became a teacher. And of course, just to add a sentence, that when I worked in that environment for a couple of years, I thought that this is my career. And this is where I'm going to end my career, for that matter. And therefore, I must have the best experience that I can have in my life. And then I went to Mayo College, Ajmer, one of the most prestigious residential schools. Then I had a stint abroad. Then I worked with a prestigious group, DPS. Then with Amity, and a whole lot of things. And finally, I found that now I have tossed myself quite a lot around the world. Let me settle down at a place. And that is how I happened to be in Ahlcon. And that became my real karma bhumi, if I can use the word.
What an interesting journey you've had. Sir, but being a new principal, I have this curious question that I want to ask you. That when you started your stint as a principal, what were the challenges that you faced? Because there is no guidebook, there is no reference book as to how to be a good principal. You learn along the way. But I'm sure you interact also with a lot of new principals. So are the challenges also evolving? Are they the same? How was your experience?
I think that's a very good question, I must tell you. And I have a very interesting answer to it, at least the first part of the answer. When you become a new principal, in India, to become a principal, you don't have any prior training. You see?
Absolutely.
In other places, you have some training. You become an assistant principal, you go through a training and all that. But one very good thing happens in India is, at least for those who want to be good and successful principals. And you know what is that? What I did, I will tell you that. So I also was a teacher for 12 to 13 years before I became principal. And my first lesson was that as a principal, I will not do anything which I did not like as a teacher, which my principals did.
Yeah, very smart.
This is number one. And number two, I will definitely do those things which my principals did and I liked as a teacher. Right? So immediately I had what I have to do and what I don't have to do. So this is one set of lesson that I use as a resource. The second was, I was very fond of getting in contact with the senior principals who were known in the industry. So since my background was the residential schools in Mayo College, I came in contact with a whole lot of very senior principals. I will name some of them. I think this podcast warrants that I must name them with a sense of gratitude. So let's say, for example, Mrs. Chona of DPS RK Puram fame. There was one Mr. Prasad, who was Bal Bhavan School in Baroda and many other places.
No,
Daily College
I've
Indore.
heard these
You might
names.
have heard
Yes.
these names. Mr. Lugani, another legendary figure. Mr. Chaya, who was also from Bharati Vidya Bhavan. So all these names, so I met them, I talked to them, I was in touch with them, I will write to them, I will ask them questions. So that gave me a kind of Eklavya kind of guru. I was not in their touch, I was not working with them, still I was following them. So this was the second thing. And the third thing, of course, I was very progressive in my thought processes. And very early in my career as a principal, not as a teacher, I realized that any good school hinges solely on the quality of teachers. So two things I read a lot of books also on education. And I read somewhere that a school cannot go above and beyond the standard of teachers.
Absolutely, agree.
This is number one. And then I read, it is the principal who can make or mar the whole institution. Right from building the teachers to influencing learning for each child, building relationship, and taking the school forward in a direction in which the education demands it.
Yeah, it's being the captain of the ship.
Yes. So these were the 2 or 3 things which I applied. And then the fourth thing I will list here is that I did not miss any opportunity where I could learn something as a leader. So whether it was attending a workshop, attending a seminar, writing a paper, doing a little bit of research, doing courses both in India and abroad, and then meeting principals and educators from across the world. That opened my whole thought process.
Wow.
So that helped me. And therefore, to sum up as answer to your question, I think all principals have their first day. All teachers have their first day. After all, you send a teacher to the classroom who has no experience of facing 40 children in the classroom, isn't it? But it is the job of the leadership, the principal and the management to make their experience from first day to first-rate teachers. Similarly, a principal is also a first-day principal, and you have to become a first-rate principal from first day. For that, these 4 things that I have said, and plus, of course, you need a very supportive management, which luckily I had. And where you can exercise autonomy, you can experiment, you can innovate, and the enablers are available to you, then probably you can do things much more easily.
So I think mentorship is very important.
Very important.
Both for principals as well as for the teachers.
For the teachers.
And that attitude of lifelong learning definitely has to be present. That is indispensable.
Yeah.
So, sir, you have globe-trotted and you have been to all kinds of schools in different places in the world. What are some of the global trends that have inspired you and that you've brought into your own schools and institutions that you have led?
Good. Very nice. So, when I traveled abroad, one observation was that their problems with education was not different from ours.
Okay.
That was heartening, I must tell you.
Yeah.
Because I thought that in India we have a lot of problems which are only special to us, and rest of the world is having a hunky-dory situation in their school. So that was the first happiness quotient. Secondly, when I met the principals and teachers there, I found one significant difference, that their professional development is much more structured, and the system is very accountable to that. Every teacher is accountable to that, and every teacher invests in their own growth, apart from the investment by the management or the leadership or something like that. So then I made up my mind that this is something I have to introduce in my school, wherever I was a principal. So the professional development is one thing that I introduce. The second thing, I might elaborate on that when the time permits, but the second thing which I learned from the schools abroad is that giving students agency a great value. Because most of their activities were student led. Student leadership was given a place of prime in their overall functioning of the school. They were trusted, and they were in a way very much a part of the decision making process. That was something for me, it was alien. So that was the second thing that I and the third thing, which was again missing in India and was very, very prominent in the schools abroad, was that the parent community was very much involved in those schools. I mean, I was we were taking driven to a school, and when we reached almost at the gate of the school, there were people who were signaling, and they were this and that. I thought they must be employees of the schools. And when I went inside and we discussed, they said they were the parent volunteers.
The parents.
I mean, that is something which was very, very heartening. So these 2-3 things definitely, and there are of course a lot of things as far as pedagogy is concerned, the classroom experimentation is concerned, assessments are concerned, which we deployed only because I learnt it abroad.
But I'm glad that all the 3 trends are now picking up in Indian schools as well.
Very much.
Courtesy to people like you who are bringing them these best practices from abroad. So you talked about teacher professional development and how important teacher quality is to an institution.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the case study that was published by IIM Ahmedabad about the teacher professional development program that you got implemented in your school. If you can just describe it in detail for us.
I will tell you about the case study, but let me preface it by the inspiration for that. So I went to Ahmedabad to do the Principal's Strategic Leadership Program, which you may be aware of, which most of the IIMs are conducting now for principals. It is a 1-week program. So I went to attend that, and Ahmedabad is particularly known for its case study based methodology. So as a participant to that course, I did 2 case studies of the principals. I was very impressed with the work that they had done, and that case study was presented to us to study and find out and discuss and analyze. And then that gave me this childlike curiosity and inspiration as to why I should also not do something which is worthy of a case study in this institution. That is something which came to my mind. And since I was already very passionate about teachers' professional development, I came back to my school and took stock of things and made this professional development of teachers as an integral part of the overall functioning of the school. So how do you make an overall functioning of the school anything? So for that you need a policy, you need a budget, you need to buy people on board, which is the process of change management. Because teachers, I'm not talking of today, but there was a time when teachers think that the day they have started teaching, their learning stops. You see, so we came from that era of mindset, and which was perpetuating in one way or the other. So therefore, this change management to bring them on board, that how learning is important for you. And by learning and constantly sharpening your axe, as we call it, and not getting fossilized, you can make a lot of change in the lives of the children. So when that first stage, when we call it scenario building. So we built the scenario. We took 4 to 5 phases of this, in the sense that we developed internal resources, we use external resources. I was a resource myself, and online thing had just set in. So I did a lot of online courses myself to inspire the teachers that now you can also do it. And then encouraging the teachers, incentivizing their learning, recognizing their learning, and developing an internal promotion policy within the school.
Right.
So whenever there is a new opportunity, it will be first offered to the people who are with us.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So then they saw a direct link between what they are learning and what they are getting. So this is one thing. And then appreciations. Not all recognitions and incentives are cash based. There are non-cash also.
Of course.
A chit.
Of course.
An appreciation.
Yeah.
Giving them opportunity to go and speak. Giving them an opportunity to write. And get published. Attending seminars. Being a resource person. So all these things do have an investment in one sense, that if a teacher is not in your school, the class is vacant or you'll have to do substitution. But we should not be tied down on those parochial things,
True.
because that is too small a thing in comparison to a teacher going out and learning something and bringing it back.
No, absolutely agree.
So that is what we did. A lot of experiments we did, and the innovations in that was that schools, all schools, say for example, do not have the enough resources. So where do the resources come from? So if you have encouraged the teachers, they will also invest, but you can facilitate that. So say for example, when we had to buy a laptop many years ago, when laptops were very expensive, schools could not provide to each teacher could not buy it for herself in one go. We talked to the vendor and we said that you provide them, and you take a down payment which the school will do, and you take installment from the teachers.
Okay.
Everybody was very happy, because paying 1,000 rupees per month was nothing in comparison to paying 50,000, 60,000 in one go. So I'm just giving in one example as to how you can facilitate teachers' investment in their own learning. So that was something very good. And so this went on for 10 years. And then I wrote to Ahmedabad that, look, this is what we have done. Do you think it is worthy of a case study? And they said that we will come and examine it.
Okay.
And they came and examined. They studied it for 2 years after that.
Okay.
Which means whatever we claim, they gathered evidence from that, from teachers, students, parents, ex-students and ex-teachers.
Okay.
Both in writing and in conversation like you and I are having. And after that 2 years of study, they were convinced that yes, there are some elements which the world should know and discuss. And then they produced this case study, which is now, luckily, I'm very happy to tell you, that now it is in some of the management institutes, particularly in Ahmedabad and Calcutta, this case study is being discussed.
That indeed sounds like a very robust framework for teacher development, and I'm glad to hear, because that validates some of what I am doing in my
wonderful.
school.